Guantanamo Bay, also known as GITMO, will be televised via the internet for us to see the future military trials.
This morning I watched President Obama talking about GITMO, right? Guantanamo Bay, which by the way, we are keeping open. And we're going to load it up with some bad dudes, believe me. We're going to load it up.
John McCain was put to death.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
So I started digging. One of the top 20 treasonous traitors to America foolishly put through an amendment to make this happen in 2019 while Trump was in office, and Trump signed it into law under the 2020 National Defense Authorization Act. Now first I'm showing a screenshot of this research because it clearly shows on Google from Adam Schiff's government website, but ironically when you click it, it doesn't go to the actual website Google shows. So it seems it's been completely wiped, which it shouldn't be. What are they trying to hide? So digging deeper, the Washington Times has the only article I could find about this from July 13th of 2019, which states the House of Representatives moved Friday to make military commissions held at Guantanamo Bay more transparent by paving the way for proceedings to be broadcast online. An amendment potentially broadening the public's access to the proceedings was included in the 2020 National Defense Authorization Act, considered on Capitol Hill, offered by California Democrat Representative Adam Schiff. The measure authorizes military judges at Guantanamo Bay to order arrangements for remote public viewing of the proceedings via internet. The amendment was passed by a voice vote and included in the version of the NDAA subsequently approved by the House. Suspected terrorists have been held and tried at the U.S. military base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, since shortly following the terrorist attack of September 11, 2001. Though several barriers have prevented the public from staying on top of the proceedings held there, relatives of the 9/11 victims, members of the media, and others wishing to watch the military commissions at GITMO must travel to the island or one of the handful of domestic military bases, where the proceedings are viewable on closed-circuit television. Mr. Schiff, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee at the time, introduced the amendment after a report he requested from the Government Accountability Office recommended that the military consider making the commissions available online. The military commissions at Guantanamo have been out of sight and therefore out of mind for far too long. As Guantanamo nears its third decade, and with trials still years away, it is all the more important that victims' families, the media, and the public are able to follow the trials before military commissions. The article states in the beginning of this amendment was included in the 2020 National Defense Authorization Act. So digging into that, you find that over 1,000 pages after it was signed into law, and the Wikipedia page states that NDAA passed the House by a vote of 377 to 48, and the Senate by a vote of 86 to 8. And became effective on December 20th, 2019, when it was signed into law by President Donald Trump. Ironically, on the wiki page, and search for the word GITMO and Guantanamo, nothing comes up in the search. If they can't publish it, then they can act like it doesn't exist, just like the fake news doesn't talk about all of the treason happening in our country, acting as if it doesn't exist. But when you go to the PDF and search Guantanamo, you find all of the goods that were hidden before. When you search Guantanamo, there are 36 results. Reading the most important results, breaking it down so we can fully comprehend them. Section 1044 states, extension of the prohibition on use of funds to construct or modify facilities in the United States to house detainees transferred from United States Naval Station, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. So this means they are building more on GITMO, which you'll see later because they used millions for this purpose. And we know Catherine Herridge boldly reported this on the news.
What you see here on the ground, Deborah, is there's no indication that the military process, the legal process, is going to shut down anytime soon. About 100 yards across the buildings that are in front of me, down into Camp Justice, there is a major construction project going on. They are, in fact, building another courthouse, and they are expanding the workspace for the handling of classified materials by the prosecution. This is a big project. It's over $15 million. So all of that goes to these interesting optics that here on the island, they're expanding the military legal process with physically a new courthouse, while at the same time in Washington, the administration is talking about shutting down the detention camps.
Which I also added in my other GITMO video where Trump said, quote, "We're going to load it up with some bad dudes," end quote. And this is after Obama and Biden promised to close GITMO, but failed miserably. They wanted it closed because they didn't want to spend the rest of their pathetic lives there.
This morning I watched President Obama talking about GITMO, right? Guantanamo Bay, which by the way, we are keeping open. And we're going to load it up with some bad dudes, believe me, we're going to load it up.
Section 1045 states, extension of prohibition on use of funds to close or relinquish control of United States Naval Section, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. So this tells us they are not allowed to close GITMO, put into law, therefore Biden would have never been able to close it. Section 1046 states Chief Medical Officer at United States Naval Station, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. So that may be a new medical officer for the new hospital at GITMO, which I'm going to make a separate video just on the new buildings. So keep a lookout for that. Section 1047 is relative to GITMO. It states independent assessment on gender and countering violent extremism. So this could be them keeping an eye on the trans terrorists and other domestic terrorists, which I would mention Antifa, BLM, for example. They could be sent to GITMO as well. Now this gets interesting because it mentions extensions of the John S. McCain National Defense Authorization Act, dating December 31st of 2019 to December 31st, 2020. I'm like, why in the world would Trump name this after John McCain? And just a quick recap, McCain was a treasonous traitor to our country, and I'm thinking Trump used him as an example to these demons and doing a bit of trolling like he likes to say. If you didn't know, it was reported McCain died of cancer, but I've had this video saved for years of this man stating he was put to death. So maybe he was put to death in GITMO for treason after all, and that's why Trump attached his name to this involving the military in GITMO. Here is Ohio Governor John Kasich letting it slip on live TV.
Is when you look at the Congress, though, it's like 24 hours since John McCain was put to death. And look at this circus of a hearing that's going on. John McCain was put to death.
McCain was a historic marker in time, and all the demons know it. This is why they fought against Trump so hard, because they know they are next in line on the chopping block. That's why they are so scared. Those that scream the loudest have the most to hide. Keep that in mind going forward. Section 2901 says they used $33,800,000 for the Guantanamo Bay Naval Station. I find it super aggravating, the hypocrisy from Democrats when money is spent to good causes like this and building the border wall. It's part of the brainwashing to make people mad for the wrong reasons. They fought Trump tooth and nail to get that border wall built, spending about $10 billion. But they are okay with spending billions, more than that, to let the illegals in to destroy us, human trafficking, and to send money overseas, money laundering our hard-earned tax dollars. That time is coming quickly to an end. Thank God. Is military justice. I find it interesting because it states the president shall prescribe regulations for matters relating to proceedings conducted before referral of charges and specifications to court-martial for trial, including the following: pre-referral investigative subpoenas, pre-referral warrants or orders for electronic communications, pre-referral matters referred by an appellate court, pre-referral matters under subsection C or E of section 806B of this title, pre-referral matters relating to the following: confinement of an accused, the mental capacity or mental responsibility of an accused, a request for an individual military counsel. So these are going to be brand new individuals going into the military trials, not the current detainees. Now, getting into the trials being televised, Section 4101 shows all of the types of communications, including CCTV and audiovisual equipment. It mentions AFN, which is Radio GITMO, officially titled AFN Guantanamo Bay, is the United States military radio station at Guantanamo Bay Naval Base in Cuba. The only area that talks about broadcasting is under Section 1756, the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, which is federal, and the military is federal. Section 1283 talks about the report on an export of certain satellites to entities with certain beneficial ownership structures on the United States industries that develop or produce satellites and commercial telecommunications equipment that do not have direct national security ties. Section 2862 states a water, wastewater, telecommunications, electric, gas, or other utility infrastructure project. So there's not a lot we can go off, and it seems uncertain at this point. So we will have to see what the future brings. With what Trump said, we're going to put a lot of bad dudes in Gitmo. Be patient, because the storm is upon us, my friends.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.